Hi guys, Jason Rzucidlo, reporting from AutoMobility L.A. In case you're wondering, it's the official media preview of the 2017 Los Angeles Auto Show.
Please join me as I welcome up the editor-in-chief of CNET's Roadshow, Tim Stevens, in conversation with John Krafcik, the CEO of Waymo, the autonomous driving division of Alphabet.
Hey, thanks for having me.
John, have a seat in our beautiful, amazing, lustrous chairs. There's been a lot of talk about when driverless cars are going to be ready. And oftentimes on stages like this, people ask, and people kind of give waffly years, maybe 2020, maybe 2022. But I think a lot of us have been really impressed to see that Waymo is actually making that happen right now. Now is the answer to that question. And we've got a little video that we're going to run to kick things off. And then John and I will talk about what's happening in autonomy today and some of the stuff that's coming in the very near future. So let's start the video. There's been a lot of talk and confusion about semi-autonomous cars, cars that drive themselves, assisted driving systems. But what we're seeing here is a proper driverless car. And I think that's an important distinction to make, that you guys have been the first to get there. 2015, you did a driverless ride, and now coming soon in Phoenix, driverless cars for consumers, right?
That's right, Tim. So back in 2015, we were the first company to put a fully driverless car on public roads without a safety net of any kind. And what we showed the world here in 2017, just a few weeks ago, is a fleet of our Waymo cars driving around the streets of Phoenix without any humans in the front row. And it's been somewhat amusing to watch some in the journalist community come up with terms to describe this, because we have used driverless, I think, a little bit carelessly in the space. My favorite term, by the way, that I heard to describe this was driverless, which I think is fairly unambiguous.
Yeah. But I mean, the terms like level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ultimately, I think it's really important to know that these are driverless cars. And I was lucky enough to get a chance to ride in one of these a couple of weeks ago at your Castle testing facility. And it was really interesting to be in that car, and it really felt like an actual driven car. It didn't feel like something that was kind of feeling its way around. It drove with confidence, and that made me feel confident sitting in the back seat.
That's right. And when you think about it, Tim, when it comes to driving, it's really all about experience. Our goal at Waymo is to build the world's most experienced driver, and we've been working for so long on this, right? Prior to becoming Waymo, we were the Google Self-Driving Car Project. The team has been together and working on this for 8 years. We just passed 4 million driverless miles on public roads. So that's excluding all of the driving we do at places like the former Castle Air Force Base, where we hosted you and many others a couple of weeks ago. And we amplify and multiply that with all of the work that we do in simulation. It's been a real advantage for the Google project. If you think back to 2012, 2013, we were probably the only company that had all of these machine learning and AI tools together with a very mature self-driving car project. So we were able to put all those pieces together, and that has resulted in the progress that we were able to show you on the video today.
So 4 million miles. I did a little bit of math before we came out here, and correct me if I'm wrong. Average of 12,000 miles a year for an average person. That's 333 years of driving for an average person. Does that sound about right?
That would be a pretty experienced driver. That's
absolutely.
About right.
And of course, the beauty of this is that all that experience is shared from one car to another. So these cars are really experienced. But how do you get people to understand and to appreciate the level of experience within these cars?
I think, you know, it's incumbent on us to do a really good job of training and providing experiences so that people have an opportunity to see what it's like. The first part is letting people see videos like this and giving them the sense of what it's like to be in a driverless car. We've also found the in-car experience is very, very important. So you might have noticed the screen, which you had the chance to experience at Castle, which gives some indication of the incredible 360 degrees of vision that we have in both radar and LiDAR, but also our cameras. We also provide a provision for the user to stop the ride if they want. So they have the opportunity to say, you know, I'm ready to pull over now. So we have that level of control for them.
I was wondering, have you thought about using something like a blind taste test? You know, basically boxing off the driver's seat of the car and having people in the back seat not knowing if there's actually a driver in the car and asking if they have a preference of one or another?
That's a really interesting idea. Jackie, what do you think? An experiential marketing idea.
I think it worked for Pepsi in the 90s, so maybe it could work for Waymo now. I think that you can run with that one. So, Phoenix. You've had cars testing there for quite a while now, and you've had actual people in these cars, but there's a pretty significant change coming soon. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah. So again, 8 years of experience. We've actually tested in 23 different cities. That's where we've accumulated these 4 million miles. Some states have clear paths to actually getting cars on the road, and we really liked Arizona for that. There are other aspects of Arizona and the Phoenix area that made a lot of sense for self-driving cars too. So as we were putting together our go-to-market plan, Phoenix popped as a really interesting place for us to start.
And you've had cars before, but now you're moving on to proper driverless cars with consumers in them, right? So that's in the near future, just a few months away?
That's right. So we started earlier this year, something we call the Early Rider Program. We announced this in the spring. Within 24 hours, we had 10,000 hand raisers in the Chandler, Phoenix, Ahwatukee area saying, I'd love to help you define the future of self-driving cars. Sign me up. So we've taken a small subset of those folks and given them access to the cars over the last 6 months or so. We've seen how they've used the cars, how they've sort of integrated self-driving cars into their daily lives, and we've learned a lot in that. Now we're at the point where we're close to saying to those same folks, would you be willing to go for a ride with us without that test driver in the front seat?
Blind taste test, I'm telling you, it'll be a good opportunity. Why is now the right time for this? Because you've been testing for years now, and you've covered 4 million miles. Why was maybe 6 months ago not the right time, or why do you not need to wait another 6 months? What makes now the right time?
There's a confluence of a lot of things. You know, certainly hitting that mileage, getting the confidence that we need to put these cars on the road without a human driver in the front seat. In simulation, we've learned a lot, Tim, and I think I can't underestimate this point. That real-world driving is really important, but we amplify and multiply the impact of that real-world driving in simulation. It gives us much greater confidence that we actually have a very good safety story.
And you mentioned legislation in Phoenix being somewhat attractive. I'm guessing the absence of weather there has a bit of a factor too. I mean, Phoenix is a pretty mild climate.
There are pros and cons to Phoenix. And to give you an example, we did hot weather testing this summer in famous places. For those of you in the auto industry, you know about the Davis Dam test and other testing that's typically done in and around Las Vegas. It turns out it was hotter in Phoenix during our hot weather testing period. So that temperature is actually a very challenging situation for sensors and compute and other things.
The lack of snow, though, I'm guessing is a benefit.
Yeah, lack of snow is definitely a benefit, which is why we're expanding now, and we've got cars driving around in Michigan getting ready for the snow there this year.
Now, one of the big questions that we as journalists have had through all this entire process of watching the self-driving car project evolve into Waymo has been, how are you guys going to actually make money off of this? And I think that's something we've been learning a little bit more about recently with upcoming partnerships. What can you tell me about the plan there? What kind of partnerships do you have in place? And what sort of vision do you see for that side of the business, which ultimately will make the business?
That's great. I mean, the first point is, I think a lot of people had thought of this project as, in some fashion, a car company. But we're really not a car company. Our job is to make the world's most experienced drivers. So that's first and foremost. We're building really great, really safe drivers that can be deployed in a lot of ways. The first way we'll be going to market is with the Waymo transportation service, right? So getting folks anywhere they want to go from point A to point B. We'll have various manifestations of that business come to light over the course of the next several months. It also makes sense for logistics and trucking and moving goods from place to place. And we've shared a little bit about putting this same suite of sensors and compute into a large Class 8 truck. The good news is it works very well, with very little modification required to drive a very big truck down the road. So there's more to come on that. We've also had a lot of interest from OEMs on personal use and licensing applications. So I think you can see and can easily imagine those sorts of applications going forward. And finally, cities around the world are really interested in how this technology can help transform them. So that aspect of unwrapping the last mile, very challenging last mile, getting people from their homes or work to existing public transport infrastructure is something that we're also working on.
Why was there so much secrecy around the business plan? I mean, you were so transparent with driving. We see reports every month of exactly how many incidents, but we really haven't heard anything about the business model until very recently. Was that intentional?
That's a great question. It was totally intentional, Tim. So I think we're in a very privileged space. Being an alphabet company, we haven't had to worry about our next round of funding as maybe junior companies looking forward to the next venture funding round or IPO might be. And we're not a traditional automotive company worried about our stock market multiple. We're in this very privileged place. So we really didn't have to worry or talk about that aspect of our commercial launch. We were, of course, working on it. We just weren't talking about it. Sure. And we thought the right time to talk about it was after we demonstrated the technology was viable.
And speaking of traditional automotive companies, obviously there are a lot of traditional automotive companies working in the same space, trying to develop the same technology. How much interest have you had from them in terms of partnering with you, licensing your technology, that kind of thing? How big of a revenue stream do you see that being down the road?
Well, I think it's super interesting. Obviously, there's been a lot of interest from both sides. We're interested in talking to the automotive companies. They've been very interested in speaking with us as well. I think you'll see more from us in the future. For now, all I can say is that FCA has been an amazing partner, and I think we're very lucky to have FCA as our first partner. The Pacifica minivans have been brilliant in service.
So self-driving Pacifica is coming to your dealer soon, I think is the listening. You didn't say it, I did. But does that mean that the auto industry has been warm and receptive, do you think? Because when Android Auto first started coming to market, for example, I heard a lot of concern ultimately about bringing Google into the car. There's a lot of manufacturers who thought that they're going to be handing over a little bit too much information. Do you think that manufacturers will be a little bit more warm and welcoming when it comes to getting help in such an important thing as this, especially given how much testing that you've done so far? Or do you think there'll still be that level of concern and maybe mistrust?
I think it varies company by company, and each company is going to have their own strategy, I think, in going after this space. I think no matter what, if you're a car company though, it makes sense to put a lot of effort into understanding self-driving. Even if you decide not to go forward, you realize the extent of the challenge, and you can become therefore, I think, a better purchaser or licensor of that technology, the more you know.
Now we talked a little bit about the scale and ultimately growing this. And this is something that everyone believes will be a major impactor on the automotive industry as a whole. How do you see this sort of business scaling up going forward? You talked about commercial partnerships and deliveries and that kind of thing. But going mass market, I'm presuming we're talking going a fair bit bigger than that down the road.
Yeah, well, if you look at one of our business lines, which is the transportation service, it makes sense for us to launch in one city and then grow to other cities. Perhaps they're contiguous, perhaps they share a certain street or road graph or weather characteristics, and then move out in that organic fashion. I think that's how you would see a scale from the Waymo transportation service standpoint. We have other opportunities with logistics and trucking to do something discontinuous, working with partners on the logistics side.
So from a municipality standpoint, let's say I'm the mayor of a town and I want Waymo to launch the service there, what sort of things should I be positioning in my town to make me look like the best opportunity to be the next Phoenix, basically?
I think it's a great question, and I think there might be a little bit of a misunderstanding, at least from our standpoint, about what makes a good city partner. Part of what we've been trying to do with our technology is to make it completely autonomous and not reliant on any new or incremental infrastructure or infrastructure change. I think that's a really important point. So I think just willingness and openness in partnering. We've had a wonderful situation in the southeast portion of Phoenix, where the local mayors there have been open to, for example, letting us understand how their cars respond to emergency vehicles and making sure there's good communication in those areas. So I think just that sort of openness and willingness to learn.
So just to be clear, you're not looking for any vehicle communications or V2I infrastructure investments or anything like that ultimately, because that's a pretty large part of the equation for a lot of other companies working on autonomy. But your cars are largely independent of any of that technology like that.
Yeah, it's, and we're not saying that B2B isn't a great idea. It's just the issue that if you make your autonomous technology reliant on that B2B, and then something goes wrong with the B2B, you've got a problem. So you've got to make the car truly autonomous in that way, not just without a human driver, but without reliance on too much infrastructure.
And of course, a lot of that depends on the ability of the car to see the world around it. And the sensor package that you developed has been a big part of the piece of the puzzle as well. At the beginning of the year in Detroit, you made some announcements about the anticipated cost and the development there. How are things progressing on that front? Because obviously, getting the cost of that hardware down will be a major factor in the ultimate success of autonomy.
That's right. So I think a lot of folks, when they think about the Google self-driving project, now Waymo, think of it as a software exercise. And certainly there is a lot of software, there's a lot of AI and machine learning in what we do. But the real magic sauce comes, I think, with the integration of that software with our own homegrown hardware. So we've developed our own vision systems, we've developed our own radar. We now developed 3 different short-range, medium-range, and long-range LiDAR system. They're all homegrown. And we've continued to progress the quality, the accuracy, and the cost of all of those systems.
What about